Hey everybody, Don Carr here with another round of What's on Your Pedalboard. Today we have the fabulous, amazing Phil X.
Did you say amazing?
Amazing.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thanks.
I'm sure. I've watched, man. I've seen. I know. You're amazing.
You watched what? I don't know what we're talking about now. Okay, but thank you. Thank you, sir.
Guitar playing. Guitar playing.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So pedalboards, I mean, this is obviously a big deal for, all guitar players, but certainly for someone like yourself who does multiple things with multiple bands and multiple scenarios. So what's going on?
I brought my drills board because I feel like the drills is a three-piece. So size really matters. And I got my rhythm sound, and then I have a choice of beefing it up with two different overdrives. Everything does a job. I mean, every pedal, even that's not on the board, I put a delay in the effects loop of the amp because I don't like it in front.
Right.
People are like, man, you don't do that. Because even when the first time I played with Bon Jovi, the sound guy came up to me and he's like, are you cool if I do the delays and the reverbs? And I'm like, I'm so cool.
Please.
I don't want to touch that stuff. It's all you.
Take it off my plate.
Yeah, exactly. So that was that. I usually leave that to the sound guy. A lot of times, when you're playing in a band like the Drills, like we went to the UK, and we just used the house sound guy at every venue.
Right.
And he doesn't know our songs, unless he did his homework,
right.
Which is usually not the case. That's why I have Dave Friedman put a second master on the amp, so I could boost my own solos. See, I don't have to do that with Bon Jovi, but I do that with the Drills.
Sure. Yeah, and in a trio situation, dynamics are gargantuan in a trio.
Yes, totally.
The ability to keep your tone and then bump up above it.
Exactly. Well, I noticed too, when you boost your own solos, like you could boost a pick slide. It could be one note.
I was going to say, a phrase even like a fill between a vocal or something.
And then you see the front row go like that, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and on stage you get the dynamic visceral response as well.
Of course.
The amp screaming at you.
Oh man, sometimes you can't hear yourself solo, and it's underwhelming, because this is your moment in a song to take someone on a journey, and your tools suck.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, typically when you're thinking about that in a trio setting, again back to the dynamics thing. The bass player and the drummer, everybody kind of raises up for the solo. It's like, here's the hot spot where we really get to jam. And so you've got to not only go from playing rhythm, which was below that, to now a solo, which is supposed to be above the new dynamic level.
Exactly. And I've never heard anybody put it quite like that, but I like it.
Oh, good. Just a little observation there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so pedalboard. Let's talk about pedalboard. That's what we're here for. Let's start with your amazing cable. I love that.
I love coily cords. Sometimes on stage, I'm sometimes a lunatic, and stepping on a coily cord when it's coiled is like stepping on a rolling pin, and you could end up on your back unless you're really quick to to catch yourself.
Right. So you got the Boss TU3,
which is the most important thing, because you want to be in tune.
I know, because if you ain't in tune, who cares?
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
So, but do you know what's funny about pedals? Your brain goes into pedal mode, because you know what you have. You know what you have at your foot. You know what you have at your disposal. So there was a gig where we were playing. I did a powder show, and then I went and did a drill show. And for some reason, I was going through a battery phase. And so my guy who was putting my stuff away didn't unplug the pedals. So I show up at the drill show with 15 minutes to set up, an opening for Steel Panther or something. And I'm like, everything's dead. I have one 9-volt, no time to go to the store. Overdrive, tuner. And then as I put the tuner down and that's it, I look at my hands and go, it's all about you guys tonight. You are the show.
That's right.
And that was it.
Gotta step up.
That prepared me for not having an overdrive for my leads. Right? So now I'm playing like crazy, and even the drummer, for a drummer to go, dude, you could park a truck between every note tonight. But if I had gone on stage and stepped on the overdrive and it didn't work, that would have freaked me out.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been sort of film. Yeah.
And again, man, with the trio things, you're singing, you're fronting the band, you got a million other things to worry about other than is my battery on?
Yeah. So overdrives, I go through many. And not many, it's like a flavor thing, right? Sometimes you feel like cookies and cream ice cream, sometimes pralines and cream, sometimes chunky monkey. You know, you never know what you're gonna feel
And
like.
occasionally orange sherbet. Right?
Hey, right?
Occasionally.
Actually, never for me.
Never?
So I go through phases, and that's why when you go on tour, you come back with more Overdrive pedals because you found one in Ireland or you found one in Spain, and you know, you're going to guitar stores and you come home with more stuff. The pile gets huge. But I found the Dualist.
Okay.
And it's got two sides, and I love the one on the right. And if I need a little more, then I can kick in the left. But the one on the right does exactly what I want it to.
Which is tough to find.
It really is, because I mean, some people think an overdrive is just for solos, but sometimes you just want your rhythm tone to get beefier. So I'm using, obviously, the Friedman X, and I'm mixing in a little bit of this guy, which is the Runt 50, just to add a different voice. So I feel like when you use a 412, there's always a little gap in the mids, and a smaller amp will fill in that gap. But then if I'm doing like so it's a little beefier, it's got a fat switch, so it adds a little fatness. In the studio, I use the glass setting a lot because it adds a nice glassy quality.
That's aptly named.
Surprisingly.
Truth in advertising, right? That's what I'm saying.
So what you find if you look at my Overdrive pedals, you'll notice that I run the level pretty hot and the gain fairly low because I love what that does to the guitar.
Right.
I love the sound of my amp, and I don't want to color it too much, right? The tone is usually at 12 o'clock or less. Yeah. So if I'm doing, for instance, we do Fire and I'll do the American Woman solo, I don't have a neck pickup, so I just roll off the tone, and I got an overdrive on it. And then I'm like, wow, I wish I had a little more sustain. So I do that, because I don't have a neck pickup. Obviously, when you have a neck pickup, you can do that with a neck pickup. Sure. I love the vibe. And it's funny, because you have people come up after the show and they go, hey, how'd you get that sound in American Woman? I'm like, I just rolled the tone off. Get out, that can't work. I'm like, it doesn't work for Little Wing. It doesn't work for Sweet Child of Mine, but it definitely works for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then part of that too is sometimes you have the tools in front of you and you have a goal over here and it's like, okay, what do I have to do to make these tools fit that goal?
Right.
You know, sometimes there's that too.
Exactly.
Ingenuity.
And then moving on, I have, this is a Steelpark Black Country Customs.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's new to me, man.
I love overdrives that have a treble and bass. Mm-hmm. Because if you turn them both up, it doesn't mess with your mids. And if you need a little more bass or a little less bass, you take that off.
As opposed to a tone control, which really more just cuts high end most of the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I really like that. The Dualist isn't set up like that, but it's just got another charm. Mm-hmm. I could be playing any solo in any drill set, and I could just step on anything. What do I feel like? And that's going back to Ice Cream, right? It's the Steelpark has this girth to it. And it's got a really hot setting as a switch, and then a medium setting, and I put it on the low setting. Because again, I like less drive and more output. Right,
less saturation and more like pushing the front end of the amp harder.
Exactly. So, and that kind of gives me, like, if I'm doing a lead. It kind of responds to my hands.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely got the liquidy thing going on too, man.
Yes,
really
definitely liquidy.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
very nice.
I was really blown away by the Gamechanger plasma pedal.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people were.
Yeah.
I love it because of the ugly gate, which I love that ugliness. Sometimes you just want something to be ugly.
And man, in a trio, you're trying to change colors.
Yes.
You're trying to change it up a little bit, make things a little bit different, and that definitely does that.
But what does it perfect for me is the blend knob.
Ah.
Because I'll play the song. We have a song called Something to Say that was on the last EP that came out, Stupid Good Lookings. Do you know the reference?
I don't.
Stupid Good Lookings?
I don't. Stupid Good Lookings.
Yeah, Flintstones, man. Oh. Madam X.
No. Really?
The Spy. She called Fred and Barney stupid good looking. So the plasma pedal. So sampling the verse. That's kicking in the fuzz to make the single line kind of like, I mean, it's not set perfectly in this situation, but on the stage when you have time to set it.
Right.
So it's like, okay, this is taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about, right? Taking something that you got that you love just to another level. And in this case, I can take it to 3 different levels.
Right, and like even like slightly off to the side, oh yeah, this one does this a little more, this one does this a little more, this one does that.
And I love simplicity. But I always talk about how it's all in the hands.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
But they can't hear your hands in the 10th row.
Well,
You've got to make your hands louder.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You know, and in Bon Jovi, it's a completely different thing. I like to keep stuff simple, but obviously I need a wah for this song and a chorus for this song. And the H9, I use the H9, the Eventide and H9 for the Always solo.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a beautiful Leslie in there.
Yeah.
So I use that. And the talk box, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
What talk box are you using, by the way?
You know, in 2013, I had a Framp tone.
Oh, okay.
But it kept breaking down. I was scared out of my mind at a Bon Jovi show where the talk box went down. It dropped out in the solo. So we went back into the amp and I used a wah, kind of like, hopefully nobody notices.
Right.
But when you go into Living on a Prayer without a talk box, you're gonna have a bunch of people go, this guy sucks. So right after It's My Life, with the talk box dying and covering the solo with the wah, I have a grid in the stage, and my tech at the time, Takumi, Wizard, he had 3 Framp tones. The one to use, the backup, and one for parts, because he was fixing them all the time. I look down through the grid, and Takumi has swapped out the Framp tone for Living on a Prayer, and he looks up and goes like that.
Yeah. And you're like,
and I'm like,
you're like,
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
Oh, no kidding, man. You're
So
my hero today.
Yeah, so it was awesome. And then,
awesome.
So to answer your question, I'm using the MXR because it's a standalone unit with its own preamp.
Right.
Sometimes I put an overdrive in front of it, depending on the song, because it needs a little more oomph. It comes with a hose, which is disgusting if you use the same bit every night. So I take a smaller bit and put a new one in every night.
Oh, nice, man. Nice.
So,
I've got the Rocktron Banshee. It's the same thing.
Exactly,
Standalone unit.
Yeah. I mean, in 1990, I toured with Aldo Nova, and he had a song called Monkey on Your Back.
Yeah.
And I used the Heil that had a big light bulb in it.
Yeah.
And when you put your mouth on it too tight, it would rattle your fillings. It was crazy. So the MXR is the safe way to go for your amp and your teeth.
Yeah, exactly, man. Your dentist bill. I mean, for crying out loud. So all we need is a dentist bill out of this.
Right, of course.
Oh, man. Anyway, so all right. I also noticed that you have a switcher, an amp switcher. That's
yes.
cool.
So I love this switcher. It's the Twin City by Radial. I've talked about switching channels in the amp to have a louder solo volume. But if I don't have that, say you do a fly date, and you have 2 amps, and you don't have an amp switcher, then the second amp becomes the boost. Yeah, exactly. So this will be amp A. And then I'll kick in the both for the. That kind of, whoa, I forgot we had delay. What?
Not used to that, are you?
No, not at all. In the studio, sometimes I want to record 2 different amps. So I was in Capitol Records and recording, and I set up the Friedman, and I had this little Supro 1606 with an 8-inch speaker that's really has a special thing to it. Yeah. So I cranked that, and it was actually Chris Lord-Alge, who was engineering. So he showed up, and he just stood in front of it, and he goes, wow, that sounds amazing. I just got to make it sound like that in there. He went in there, and it was amazing. And he loved the idea. The premise is really cool. And sometimes I'll send people 2 amps, like a big amp and a little amp, and just one performance, because I love that. You know, if you can get the phasing correct and there's no ground issues.
Right.
But you send it to guys and they're like, okay, what is this? I go,
Blend
it's
them.
labeled big amp, little amp.
Yeah.
Those both go on the left, and then big amp right, little amp right.
Yeah.
They both go on the right. And then you can, if you want the little amp more, you fade that in. Otherwise, if I commit, maybe the mix, my blend isn't right for the song.
Right, exactly. Because the whole point of that is the way the mid-range sticks out. And if you've got, you know, whatever keyboards, or you've got vocals, or you've got snare drum or whatever, and you're trying to work around that.
Exactly.
Or, you know, yeah, it's that mid-range thing helps, man. I love that same concept. I did it live with a direct signal and 2 different mics, same thing. You
Nice. The variables available to us.
Right? Man,
Unbelievable.
dude, we are like, I say this all the time, we're in the golden age of gear right now. It's
And we're all nerds.
amazing.
We're the new nerd. It's not unusual for me to get on the phone with any of my guitar friends and talk pedals or cabinets or amps or anything for hours. But the funny thing is we're talking about pedals, of course.
Yeah.
But when you're recording and you get, you know, I think every guitar player should get up to a par of an average engineer at least.
Right, right.
Because it's so important to be able to record yourself properly.
Because you think it ends, you think, oh, my responsibility ends at the amp. It's like, well, if you want it to, but not really.
Yeah. So it's like just an amazing thing that, like you said, an amazing time for us.
Yeah, it is. We're in the gear renaissance, as it were, man. And it still all comes down to the hands.
It really does.
Well, it starts there anyway, right?
Well, I mean, that's why, you know, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's something else. And what happened with Friedman for me was definitely, you know, wow, this amp is amazing. Yeah. And then when Dave and I went to approach my version of the Friedman amp, it was just with a gain cut. Instead of turning it down, it's a switch. So it just sounded more open to me, and that's what I was looking for. And then I can also switch into the higher gain mode, or I can throw a pedal in front, or both. I can throw that in, or that in. And you know, for this chorus, I'm gonna use this overdrive, and for that chorus, I'm gonna use that overdrive, and for this solo, I'm gonna use this overdrive.
Exactly, man. Because sometimes you need something maybe a little more compressed, maybe a little gainier, maybe a little brighter, maybe a little darker.
Because openness is great, but sometimes you do want that compression.
Right.
Because it adds this fur to it.
Exactly.
So when we do the drills and there's 3 or 4 guitars, I'm pretty confident that I'm covering it as a 3-piece.
No, that's nice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's your creation, so you kind of know where the origin point is. It's like, okay, this is important, let's do this.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Yeah, cool. Phil, wow, thanks so much, man. You are a mountain of information.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
I'm a mountain of a man, too, with COVID.
Oh. Man, thanks so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate you being here, man.
You're welcome,
Seriously.
man.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions about guitars, amps, pedals, even Phil, if you have any questions about Phil, make sure to contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. He'll definitely hook you up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.